Welcome to CVR English. This is Naresh Kumar. Let's watch the world news. Russian President Vladimir Putin emphasized his strong ties with Asia and highlighted his friendly relations with China and India. He also spoke of his warm friendship with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
I've mentioned the friendly relation with China and India. I have warm relations with Prime Minister of India. Those who have passed away already, or those who still live today, I would like to have a cup of tea. While from those living today, I would like to have more time to spend with my relatives, with members of my family and my friends. I would like to have more opportunities to drink a cup of tea with them. As for the world leaders who have passed away already, I've had contacts, not so close contacts, but nonetheless, for quite a long time, I had contacts to Mr. Kohl, the German Chancellor. He was a world-scale figure, not only due to the fact that he was a corpulent man, but also thanks to his belief. After my very first meeting with him back in 1993, and for a long period of time, after he no longer was German Chancellor, he sometimes regularly, not quite frequently, but regularly came to visit me, and it was my distinct pleasure to talk to him. He was an important figure of his time. He had done a lot for his homeland, for the German people, and he was a real world leader. And I still have warm memories of many of our conversations. They were useful for me, and it is no exaggeration. They were useful. He was a president of France. Chirac was a very interesting personality. He has encyclopedic knowledge. He knew everything, whatever you asked him. And he had his own opinion on anything, and he stuck to his opinion. He was a very gallant and polite man, and I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot from Kohl and from Chirac too, his manners in particular. A bit different sort of personality, but nonetheless a very warm person was Berlusconi. Just as Chirac, he accomplished a lot for development of Russian-Italian relations. Regardless of what's happening right now, we feel some affinity to Russia among the Italian population, just as we feel the same affinity to Italians. They've all made a large contribution to the development of our bilateral relations and to the world policy, and it was interesting to talk to them. They were true personalities. They had their own opinion, and they were focused on achieving best possible results for their own countries and strengthening the sovereignty of their countries. Even now I have many friends in Asia. I've mentioned the friendly relation with China and India. I have warm relations with Prime Minister of India. So I have people to talk to. But just as any human being, those are my family members who are most important to me, and I have some friends from my childhood. I've mentioned the friendly relation with China and India. I have warm relations with Prime Minister of India. Those who have passed away already, or those who still live today, I would like to have a cup of tea. While from those living today, I would like...
Reported sightings of drones over New Jersey have led to surge in incidents of people pointing lasers at airplanes flying overhead, a practice that is both illegal and dangerous according to the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration. The FAA reported a 269% increase in laser incidents, with 59 cases recorded in the first half of December compared to just 8 during the same period last year. Aiming lasers at the aircraft poses serious safety risks. and violates federal law. Officials have reiterated that the increase in drone sightings does not indicate a national security threat and is often attributed to misidentified aircraft stars or hobbyist drones.
As I highlighted earlier in the week, that will be a combination of active and passive detection capabilities, some counter-UAS capabilities, which would include non-kinetic types of systems like drone busters, right, which essentially disrupts signals and affects the ability of these systems to fly. Standard security language included in national security NOTAMs and temporary flight restrictions. As you've heard us say, we're going to work closely with the FBI, DHS, FAA to make sure that we're harmonizing our on-base efforts with anything that they're doing off-base. Our forces, our commanders, if they observe UAS activity that they believe represents a threat, they have the authority to conduct mitigation operations based on the capability at their location.
On the drone question, I shudder to bring this up, but you mentioned on Tuesday that counter-drone systems will be deployed to New Jersey this week or next week. Have those systems been deployed, and what's the rule of engagement on those? And are those kinetic or fuzzbuster type of equipment?
So the majority of that capability has deployed. The rest should be arriving very shortly, if not imminently. And as I highlighted earlier in the week, that will be a combination of active and passive detection capabilities, as well as some counter-UAS capabilities, which would include non-kinetic types of systems like drone busters, right, which essentially disrupts signals and affects the ability of these systems to fly. Thanks very much. Kelly.
Just to follow up more a bit on drones, I just wanted to ask about the federal ban on drone operations in parts of New Jersey. The government, they say, may use, quote, deadly force against the drones if they pose an imminent security threat. Who would shoot them down if it came to it? Would that be DoD assets?
So a couple things. So first of all, I would note that that is standard security language included in national security NOTAMs and temporary flight restrictions. So FAA certainly could talk to you more about that. And as you've heard us say, we're going to work closely with the FBI, DHS, FAA to make sure that we're harmonizing our on-base efforts with anything that they're doing off-base. And the bottom line is that our forces, our commanders, if they observe UAS activity that they believe represents a threat, they have the authority to conduct mitigation operations based on the capability at their location. And as I highlighted, one of those capabilities could be the non-kinetic, interruption of signals, for example.
And just talking about a potential government shutdown, how could that impact the efforts to detect and track drones and the efforts that you're doing right now?
Well, I mean, if it's, we're going to continue to do the operations, as I highlighted. Military personnel are going to continue to do operations necessary to protect and defend the nation. So in so much as we need to protect our facilities or mitigate potential threats, we will be on point in doing that. And as I highlighted earlier in the week, that will be a combination of active and passive detection capabilities.
Russian President Vladimir Putin called out Western media for maintaining silence over alleged terrorist attacks in Russia. Russian press stated, "We have never heard, I do not mean from you personally, but from the Western journalists, corps, we have never had condemnation of such terrorist attacks carried out in Russia."
If the experts in the West think so, well, let them come up with a proposal to us and to the US. They can suggest kind of a technological experiment, kind of a high-tech fighting duel of the 21st century. They can designate a target, say in Kiev. They can concentrate.
Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday challenged Western claims about vanishing missiles vulnerabilities, suggesting it direct test to assess its effectiveness against advanced air and missile defense systems in Ukrainian capital Kyiv. During the program year, in a review with Vladimir Putin hosted by Channel 1, a Russian state-controlled television channel, the Russian president proposed a technological duel to demonstrate the missile's capabilities. When questioned about the West referring to the Oreshnik as a modified version of an old Soviet weapon and claiming that the missile could be intercepted by air defense systems even during its launch phase, Putin responded, "This is a modern, very new weapon.
Defense
Everything that is done in any sphere of activity is based on some previous
we are willing to conduct such
on
an
previous
experiment.
achievements,
Let's
and then
conduct
people
this
take
duel
a step
and
forward.
look at the
The
outcome.
same thing
It's
with
going to be interesting
Oreshnik.
because it's going to be useful
This is
both
a new
to us and
weapon,
to the
I
American
repeat.
side.
This is a
Putin
medium and
Konkoreshnikov,
shorter range weapon.
there's that TV channel. I have to ask you about the statements we've been hearing from you over the last several weeks. You spoke about the first military test of Oreshnik. It seems as if it is a perfect weapon, even though in the West it's still dubbed as a modification of an old Soviet missile, saying that the air defense system can bring it down even at the moment of launch. Can you comment on that? And what about the sense behind the name of this Oreshnik? Because there are different theories as to why it received this name. First, whether that is an old weapon or new weaponry, it's a cutting-edge type of weapon. Of course, anything that is being done anywhere is based upon previous achievements, and then we make a step forward. And the same thing applies to Oreshnik. Yes, there were certain developments in the past, some of them dating back to the new Russian history, and based on that groundwork, our researchers and scientists have been thinking what else they can do. They talked to the client, namely the defense ministry, and it was even brought up to my level, and I weighed in on the final decision on whether this new missile has to be produced and in what volume. This is a new weaponry, short range and intermediate range missile. You said that several experts in the West believe that it can be easily intercepted and destroyed, especially at the moment of launch. What can I say to these experts? The thing is, there are different types of air defense systems, because you should know that there are Patriot air defense systems, which there are also THAD systems. I don't know whether they have those in Ukraine. Maybe if Americans want, they can supply those systems. Let them. It's similar to our S-400, whereas Patriot is more or less like S-300, whereas this new one, high altitude air defense system, is more or less like S-400. Let them do that, and we'll ask our guys in Ukraine to find some good solutions. Well, when I say our guys, I say that without irony, because there are those we can talk to in Ukraine, because there are many people in Ukraine who are.
The Nepal BFS SAFE Summit 2024 held in Kathmandu on Thursday discussed ways to deepen sustainable financing for climate change, mitigation and adaptation. Organized by the Banking, Finance and Insurance Institute of Nepal in collaboration with the Indian Nepal Center of the PhD's Chamber of Commerce and Industry, experts discussed aspects relating to the impact, mitigated ways and adaptation to climate change. Prominent leaders, policy makers and financing experts held discussions on the theme deepening sustainable financing for climate change, mitigation and adaptation, focusing on innovative strategies for promoting sustainability and addressing climate risks. within the BFSI, banking, financial services, and insurance sector during the one-day summit. Industry leaders, environmental experts, and policymakers engaged in a series of panel discussions and technical sessions, sharing insights on how financial institutions can drive sustainable development and support the transition to a low-carbon economy.
Sustainable financing. This session will on board this greatest
Climate change, as the previous speakers have pointed out, is a reality, particularly for us, the countries in South Asia, which are all developing countries. The negative effects of climate change have been visible in the last few years, whether it is melting of glaciers, the frequent incidents of floods, and the consequent damages to the life and property. It all, in a sense, reflects the adverse effect that we are facing in this region due to the climate change. Even as the countries of the South Asia region, including Nepal and India, join hands with global community to address these challenges, there is, I believe, a greater need for regional collaboration and regional solutions, because ultimately it is a problem that we have to face. Honorable Minister Bahat.
Address, let us welcome her.
climate change, mitigation and adaptation.
Developed economy or the industry to vital in the today's context of climate change discussion and climate
Demand in the world, including from
Minister for let us PhD CCI and former Ambassador of India.
Need to start seeing what can you do in terms of leveraging private finance for what is an imperative for Nepal, which
The year-long Israel's war against the Triple H took another turn as Houthis upped the ante with attacks. While IDF has been busy with its strategy over Syrian territory, Yemen launched attack on Tel Aviv on December 19 after December 16. Blasts followed by Syrians were heard in night sky of Tel Aviv as Yemen launched a surprise attack causing people to run for life. Reuters footage from the Tel Aviv shows a projectile striking across sky and was intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome defenses. The Israeli military confirmed that the Israeli Air Force had intercepted a missile launched from Yemen. Israeli military also said that it struck Houthi military targets, ports and energy infrastructures in relation to the Yemeni attacks.
The IDF conducted precise strikes on Houthi military targets in Yemen, including ports and energy infrastructures in Sana'a, which the Houthis have been using in ways that effectively contributed to their military actions. Israel will not hesitate to act in order to defend itself and its citizens from the Houthis' attacks.
משה, הוא רוצה להכניס סגירת כלים. כלים איתו.
לא נגמר.
The IDF conducted precise strikes on Houthi military targets in Yemen, including ports and energy infrastructures in Sana'a, which the Houthis have been using in ways that effectively contributed to their military actions. Israel will not hesitate to act in order to defend itself.
The President Donald Trump said to take the Oval Office soon. He had pressured lawmakers to tie up loose ends before January 20. But in a recent turn of events, the US government is heading toward shutdown after a Trump-backed spending bill failed in the House on December 19. Members of the party as right flank opposed the package concerning over increased spending and the potential to add trillions to the $36 trillion debt. 38 Republicans opposed it, leaving Congress with no clear plan to avert a fast approaching government shutdown that could disrupt customers. The bill, which aimed to extend government funding to provide disaster relief, was rejected by a 174 to 235 vote, with government funding set to expire at midnight on December 20. A shutdown could disrupt various services and affect over 2 million federal workers.
Working class people.
The split here between the two parties as the former president sees them now.
We are going to continue to fight for everyday Americans. That is why we are voting no on this bill.
This was actually a piece of the North Towers, and they brought it down.
The Christmas market opened in Damascus on Thursday, December 19, 10 days after the ouster of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's regime. Visitors flocked to the market, where they strolled around and took pictures next to Christmas decorations. Yahya al-Sahor, a Syrian man at the market with his partner, expressed his hope for Syria to be rebuilt as a country for all sects and religions on December 8. Fighters from Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, a Sunni al-Islamist group that has emerged as the dominant force in post-Assad Syria, took control of the country after advancing to Damascus. Since then, many Syrians have fled to the country fearing persecution. Despite assurances of safety from the new rules, top diplomats from the United States, Turkey, the European Union and Arab nations met in Jordan on Saturday, December 14, and agreed that a new government in Syria should respect minority rights.